What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Coffee and Headphones. My name is Caleb,
My name is Trevor, and this is
a podcast.
podcast. I forgot the rest of it. Where brothers talk about brothers things.
Yep.
Let's get into it, Caleb.
Let's get into it, Trevor. Today we are talking about the NBA Finals, which kicked off last week. Your team versus my favorite player and his team, the Nuggets and the Heat. Game two, we're all tied up. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the narrative coming in, I guess, and then we'll talk about game one and game two. Because I was seeing a lot of sweep, 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 and as a Nuggets fan, as nice as it would have been to believe that, I knew that wouldn't be true.
Yeah.
I think I said it on here. I know I told you. I've told several of my friends, even in the chats on Instagram and on the post. It's going to be a 6 or 7 game series.
By the way,
That's
follow us on Instagram at Coffee and Headphones Pod.
Yes, a lot of you guys watch the shorts, a lot of you guys watch the reels, but let's get some follows. Um, yeah, man, it's I knew it wasn't going to be a sweep. That's still Jimmy Butler, and Bam plays well. Their role players have been playing really good, but yeah, the narrative was it's going to be boring. The Nuggets are going to sweep them. It's been anything but boring. First game was the way I wanted it to go. Second game, not so much. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the narrative and how that shifted or not shifted?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, to your credit, like you were one of the people who were saying like, hey, it's not gonna be a boring series. And honestly, I think a lot of Nuggets fans knew that it would go probably five or six or so. It was more like the mainstream media who has no idea how to comprehend the actual game of basketball was like, oh, Jokic is the best player, the Heat are the eight seed, the Nuggets are gonna sweep, which is funny because before that it was the Nuggets were gonna lose to the Lakers. But we already talked about that. I think this series is shaping up to be like a basketball dream for a lot of the nerds out there. And it's been really fun to watch. Like you said, game one was a little bit lopsided, especially in the first half. But when the Heat busted out the zone in the second half and brought it within 9 at the end of the fourth or the beginning of the fourth quarter, you could tell like the wheels were turning for a lot of them. Of course, the shooters shot terribly in that game, and that was really the difference. And then game two, the shooters shot a little bit better. And the big difference between game one and two, besides just some shots falling for the Heat and not falling for the Nuggets, is Jimmy guarded Jamal Murray. And Jamal was having a tough time with that, especially with the switches. Like they tried to get Jamal onto like Gabe Vincent. And let's talk about that last shot that Jamal took. It was really weird for me because he had, was it Vincent on him or was it Max Strus on him at the beginning of that possession? It was Vincent,
It
right?
was Gabe Vincent, yeah.
Yeah. And Vincent's like a good defender, don't get me wrong, but he's 6'2". And for some reason, Jimmy was guarding Jokic and they switched. The Nuggets switched, and Jimmy was then guarding Jamal for that final shot. Jimmy's 6'7", six-time all defense. I don't know what was going on there, what the thought process was, why Jamal didn't just dump it to Jokic, who had a monster game. And I know Jamal just hit two big threes before that, but to me, that just wasn't the move. I'm glad the Heat won. I think it makes it a lot more exciting seeing that they were the first team this postseason to go in Denver and get a game on the road.
Mhm.
But it was really weird. And that I don't think that was a coaching thing. I think that was just a kind of Jamal calling the shot in the moment, which I'd say he has
Which
earned.
he's done so many
Yeah.
times.
And I
So
think he's earned that. But
over bigger players, better defenders.
yeah,
So
it didn't
you know,
make sense. It didn't make sense though in the moment. And
it wasn't the smartest basketball play to make.
no, and it didn't
But
work.
I think the big difference, and real quick, I just want to say, uh, to your point, like Nuggets fans maybe knew, a lot of them didn't. I was actually told I wasn't a real Nuggets fan because I didn't think it would be a sweep. So, ha. But anyway, uh, Jamal, everybody, the difference I saw is we have seen teams make those runs against the Nuggets in these playoffs a lot of times, like a lot. And the Nuggets have rose to the occasion and still won. This time it didn't happen. There's quite a few reasons why. Jimmy guarding Jamal is a really good thing for the Heat. I think that should happen a lot more. Um, I don't think it came down to those last 3 points, though. I really don't. I mean, we had an 8 point lead, and then I looked up and it was a tie game. So I think, I mean, first off, we had 23 assists, which is
Yeah.
pretty low for us throughout these playoffs. Yoke had 4 assists, uh, and then
And five
MPJ had,
turnovers, right?
yep, MPJ had 0 assists. 5 or 6 points. Same with Bruce Brown had 11 points. KCP had 5 points. Got in foul trouble a little early.
Yeah.
But those are the players that need to show up. Like we've seen teams have players score 50, 40, whatever, and they still lose. And especially against a team like the Heat where they can have everybody play to a certain degree. That's sort of what the Nuggets need to continue. It really looked like a lack of effort, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It really did. And that's something Mike Malone touched on too. Uh,
Yeah. He
it
was not
didn't look like
happy.
the Nuggets we've seen. I wouldn't be happy either. They look content to lose that game, which is a really odd thing to see. I think we'll be fine. I think we'll bounce back in Miami tomorrow. Um, but we hadn't lost at home all postseason, so of course that was like a huge thing to everybody. But I had like an eerie feeling that the Heat could take game two. That could be one that they could take. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a great series so far, man. I
Yeah.
don't know what to say.
Yeah, no, it's been great, man. Like, it's really nice to be able to watch these two. I mean, the Heat is kind of a big franchise after their 2010 success, but they're not like the top tier, right? It's nice to watch these kind of mid-level market teams um, show how good team basketball can really be. And the thing that's so cool about both of these teams, less so now that Jamal's kind of returned to form and kind of hit a new level even. But the cool thing is both of them, obviously they play through their stars, but on any given night, any role player can step up and be huge and give you 20 to 30 points. And that wins, as we saw a lot with the Heat and like Caleb Martin in the Boston series, that wins you playoff games and playoff series. And this, like you said, Duncan Robinson's 10 points. This series has been no different so far.
Right.
I know there were two big missed calls or questionable calls at least against the Nuggets. I'm sure you want to touch on that. There was some also against the Heat, but let's talk about the Nuggets ones first.
I'm not gonna be a Celtics or Lakers fan. I'm not going to blame the refs for this loss. I think we lost the game in other areas.
Yeah,
I don't think that helped. If those calls were made correctly, we would have won. Yes. But should it have been that close after we were up by that much? No,
yeah,
it shouldn't have.
up by 14, 16.
14 or 14 or 15. I can't remember. But I mean, and that's the thing, like you game plan, this is the finals. You know, Mike Malone's an amazing coach, so you know he's talked about the Heat coming back from those leads
Yeah,
many, many times this
yeah,
season, especially like postseason. So
yeah,
it's something that you just have to prepare for and weather the storm, which we usually have done a good job this postseason of doing.
absolutely.
Um, we didn't in game two, but what I think is interesting. I don't know, like the Heat, they had like two foul shots game one, I think.
Yeah,
A lot of that was because there wasn't like a lot of missed calls.
no,
It really was like they didn't get to the free throw line. That was on them.
yeah,
And like
and good
I think
defense,
it was great defense. It was clean defense. Some could have been called, some couldn't, but
of
that's every
course.
game, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it wasn't like any blatant, like, wow, like the refs are not calling fouls for the Heat. It's just we weren't fouling them on shooting shots and we weren't getting into the bonus against them. I think like same goes for game two on the Nuggets side. the Nuggets, those missed calls were big in the moment, especially like if you're a Nuggets fan and you're watching it and you're like, what the heck just happened? But in reality, that's not what lost us the game.
Right,
It's
right.
not.
No, for sure. And those two calls in particular, like in case you're wondering, one is Jimmy pretty
His
clearly steps
up
on the
and down.
baseline for a kick out, and that should have been a turnover. And then the other one is a little bit more questionable. Like I understand in the moment
Controversial.
missing it, but it's the Bam block on the Jamal floater. It's crazy because that floater was so high. Usually refs will just like call it a goaltend, benefit of the
And then
doubt,
review it.
and
And
then
I was
review it.
watching the game with this dude who had money on the Heat,
Mm,
and I was like, if they would have called a goaltend and reviewed it, that wouldn't have counted. But because they didn't call a goaltend, it had to have counted.
yeah,
But that was a very clear goaltend,
it was coming down.
unlike the AD one that everybody was crying about. Um, that one could have went either way, to be
Yeah.
honest. But that was a very clear goaltend. So
Now, do you think that was a makeup call? Because there was two pretty clear phantom fouls against Bam. One was really bad. His third foul in the first half, he didn't even touch Jokic, and they called a foul. And then the same thing for his fourth foul happened. But the one in the his third foul was like crazy. Do you think that was a makeup call, or do you think they just happened to miss all of those?
it could have been a makeup call, but here's my thing: like makeup calls shouldn't exist.
No,
Like
especially in the finals.
they should not exist. I mean, even if it happens like against your team, and you like here's because refs can pick and choose. Like okay, like that one's a makeup call. Like there's rules to follow. If you missed one, okay, you missed it. Keep it pushing, but let's not like determine how the game is played by like saying, okay, this next play I'm gonna have a makeup call because I messed up. Like there's no reason that games should be called that way whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like all season, the refs have been awful for every single team. So I'm not gonna like sit here and blame the refs that the Nuggets lost that game, but the
No.
refs do suck, and something needs to be done about it. But that's again, that's just not the reason we lost.
No,
So
and honestly, like they haven't been awful in the finals so far. Those were big missed calls, but other than that, really, it's like nothing crazy. There's not really any like controversial thing. I think probably the block not being called a goaltend is the biggest missed call so far in the finals, and that wouldn't have given the Nuggets the lead, but it would have brought it into a 1 point game, which could have obviously been huge. And then, of course, they did, like you said, like that's not the reason they lost. They had a chance to tie it up at the end, and they ran a really questionable play. But now it's 1-1 going to Miami. What do you think? Where do you see this series going from here? Because this is quite, I mean, arguably, this is the biggest controversy the Nuggets have faced in the postseason. This is a different kind of thing than like losing the 2 games in Phoenix. They just lost the 2 games in Phoenix because Booker had historic games and KD had a lot of points too. Like
this
that
was
that
something that the
happens.
Nuggets lost themselves.
This is something,
I,
well, not even just that, but like the way that the Heat went about this game and adjusted from game one, implementing that zone in a different way in the second half, and then going into this game too. Obviously, the Heat are kind of notorious for the zone during the Spoelstra era, and of course, Spo's comments on like you can't just like let Jokic shoot. That's not the game plan. But for lack of better terms, letting Jokic kind of go off on offense and shutting down the shooters on the Nuggets squad. Where like what's the counter if you're Denver here?
that's not going to be something that works every game.
Why
Jokic
not?
is too talented, has too high of an IQ. And then you cannot. I mean, that's what they did. They did it well. They only won by 3 points. They were a shot away from going into overtime. So let's not say like,
But
oh,
they were
that's
down double digits before that.
right, but that's not the answer. Just like Rui Hachimura was not the answer. It's not. It's not going to work every game. It's going to slow the Nuggets down, maybe make games closer. But I think Mike Malone is a good enough coach to make an adjustment where it's like they're probably going to run less of the high pick and roll and probably more like set offense
Hmm.
with double screens and somebody running the baseline would be my guess. And just have Jokic picking off screens like down in the post more, and have him play towards the post more than he has in the previous two games. Because then if Jokic gets the ball in the post, you're going to be forced to double, right? I mean, I think his shooting percentage in the post is like 75% or something like that. So I think we'll make a good enough adjustment, but I will say this. I think it's a need to win game 3 for the Nuggets. I really do. Because the one thing that scares me about Miami is momentum.
Yeah,
Because they're crazy. They think they're the best.
yeah.
Talent wise, they're not. But they can like will themselves into believing they're the best and they just don't give a F and they
They
start playing like they
they
are the
have
best.
Miami
So,
plays with the power of friendship, which is
yeah.
uh which is obviously powerful enough to get them in this position. Let's talk about MPJ real quick. Is obviously a player that I've been super high on his whole career. Um, and I think you finally did agree with me that he's the X factor along with AG here in this run for the Nuggets. He has shot, what is it? 2 for 8 last game, 5 for 16 the game before. He looked mentally checked out on defense, especially in the last game. Only played what 24 minutes or something like that, the least out of all the starters. Um, and I remember like probably 2 or 3 possessions where he had a clear like if he would have kicked it one more swing over, the Nuggets would have had a great shot. Jamal one time, KCP one time. He's playing with like the IQ he had in the bubble almost. And I know Mike Malone is not taking well to that. What do you think you do here? Like, do you see his minutes getting diminished because you don't want to lose him completely? He's obviously a big asset, and when he's on, he's one of the best catch and shoot players in the NBA. But he can't if he's not defending, if he's not moving the ball, if he's throwing up bricks, he can't really afford to be out there too much.
I mean, we've talked about Mike Malone before. When he loses faith in a player, that's pretty much it. It doesn't matter who you
Shout out
are. You're
Bones
gonna.
Highland.
It doesn't matter who you are. Um, Brought in Reggie Jackson, Thomas Bryant. Tried to play them a couple games. They didn't play well. We haven't seen them. Okay, but the difference is on the flip side. If Mike Malone does believe in you and have faith in you, he's going to stick with you and make sure you're getting those minutes, and he's going to trust that you're going to make it happen. You've seen it with, I mean, even like with Jamal when Jamal got hurt, right? Like this is a team that has not made all the huge like trade deadline trades or like made all the huge like number one picks or anything like that. I think MPJ will be just fine. He needs to have a good game. Game 3, I think the team as a whole is probably going to get on his ass a little bit about defending better because that has been a big difference maker for us this entire postseason. He's played amazing defense. He really has. And he's big enough to play amazing defense. And I'm not going to be a LeBron fan and like blame it on injuries. But this man has had 3 back surgeries, I think. And I saw a quote from him the other day where he's like, I got to work 3 times as hard just to
I
be on the
saw
same
that
level
too.
with everybody
Yeah,
else.
but back injuries
But
don't take away your IQ in the middle of the finals.
no, but pain could possibly. Um, but no, I think he'll be okay, man. I really do. I'm not too concerned. Everyone has some off nights. The finals is a terrible time to have those off
Yeah,
nights,
yeah,
but everybody has them.
for
So
sure. I mean,
I
look
don't
at
know.
Jalen Brown game 7. Like that's the worst time to have the worst game of your career, and he had 8 turnovers and shooting crazy bricks. So
Here's the
yeah.
thing, Jokic did not have a triple double either.
Oh, he had a
So
negative turnover to assist ratio for. Is that the first time in
four
the
assists
postseason?
probably.
It was
I'm not sure. I don't
yeah.
know, but probably.
Rob, and
Uh,
that was obviously the game plan, as well as just a couple of those passes were like, what are you doing, Jokic? You know, which it happens from time to time. It's rare and it happens way less the older he's gotten in his career. But
if you watch Jokic throughout the year, there's games where you're like, okay,
yeah,
like he's doing it off the strength. Like because that's what he does night in and night out is be an amazing passer. And then he'll like make a turnover. And then what will happen is they'll accrue quickly because it'll be like, okay, he had a turnover. And then you can see it. And then he has another one and then another one. And it's just like all of a sudden he has 4 turnovers out of nowhere. So I think we'll be good. I mean, we're talking about one game. Let's not forget that. We're talking about one game that we lost. So that's sort of the silver lining is we lost that game. The Heat played good, but we could have won that game.
yeah.
So
Now here's the counter to that.
if the Heat are playing their best and we're playing our best, the Heat aren't going to win.
Here's the counter to that though. Let's talk about my guy for a minute here. We haven't even mentioned him. Jimmy Butler did not shoot well again. Ankle injury seems to be catching up with him. He's definitely not the same player he was in the like Milwaukee series,
Mm-hmm.
but he facilitated like he does from time to time. He was playing, what was it, 9 assists, playing that facilitator guard role. And then he took over in the fourth. I think I'm assuming what Spo and him talked about was, hey, Jimmy, don't worry about the offense right now. Defer to the first 3 quarters. Focus all of your energy in guarding Jamal, shutting down Jamal, which he did. He definitely did that very well. And then in the fourth, look for yours, go to the line. I think he had like 5, 6 free throws in the fourth, and then a few buckets as well, a couple threes. And then whenever he was doing that, Jamal was a little bit more unleashed. He had, what was it, 3 of his buckets as well in the fourth. So that balance for Jimmy and the Heat worked really well in game 2. Um, that's something that I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on is what is that trade-off for Butler on the defensive end and the offensive end? What does that look like moving forward? And how many times can they get that switch with AG onto Jamal? Because that's when Jimmy cooked, is whenever
Here's
they switch.
Yes, 100%. Jamal's not guarding Jimmy. He's not. But this is the best defender that Jamal's probably seen, not only all playoff, but all season. So if Jamal can make a few adjustments, I think he'll be just fine. Um, will he score? Will he average 35 this finals? Probably not. I don't think so. I think he'll average closer to like 25. But 25 is really all we need out of him if our role players are playing well. But yeah, Jimmy's a beast, but it's just so hard to believe. Like, it's people think I'm crazy when I say these teams are very similar to each other, but it's a fact. Like, if you would have said at the beginning of the year, oh, we have Bruce Brown, KCP, and we're like, those are going to be the difference makers. Just like if you would have said, hey, like, Duncan Robertson and
Gabe
Max Scherz and
Vincent,
Gabe
yeah.
Vincent are going to be the difference makers. Nobody would have believed it. But now we got all the way here, and now it's like, oh, both these teams are so deep. They have such good players. That's not true. They just have really good team chemistry, and they play really well together.
Yeah.
And they're all NBA players, so
They
any of
play
them can
for
get
each other.
30 a night. They play for each other, both of these teams, so they're very similar. But that's the thing. Jimmy, as good as he is, the talent is just on Denver's side. It is. Like, Jamal is borderline all star when he's an all star when he's playing this well.
I think he'll be an all-star
Um,
next year. I think we can lose
Absolutely.
the borderline.
So, and I think that's going to be the big difference, what you just said right there. Keeping AG on Jimmy. He's not going to stop him, but he's going to slow
No,
him down.
I mean Jimmy definitely he cooked AG a couple of times too in game 2.
He
Um,
did, but AG has been guarding the best players,
yeah, AG's had
arguably in
a
the
heck of a
league,
run.
all playoffs.
He's been essential to where the Nuggets are right now in the finals. And without him, bro, can we talk about that alley oop, that little reverse layup scoop thing? I know the pass from Jokic was getting a lot of attention, but that catch and finish without looking at the rim, that was crazy.
I mean, dunk champion. We
Yeah.
come
It
on
was
now.
like it was like a reverse dunk, but a jelly layup combined. It was
It
crazy.
was beautiful, and that's he's so. AG does not get enough credit, even like with Nuggets fans, even
Well,
with
I think
altitude
some of
TV.
it is because Nuggets fans were pushing so hard for him to be that third, to be that all-star reserve. And then like right towards the all-star game, he started to drop off a lot. And then he kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit as
Mm-hmm.
far as like attention. But this playoff run, like you're saying, like defensively, if AG's not there, the Nuggets probably don't make it past Phoenix,
He's accepted his role, which is what a good player's supposed to do.
which is
Um,
what you said AG needed to do whenever he came to Denver.
yep, 100%. And he's played every role that they've asked. When we needed him to score more, he's done that. When they needed him to defend more, he's done that. He's became a better ball handler than he ever was. He's still not great, but he's a decent ball handler now. He gets rebounds. He can pass. Playing with Jokic definitely helps everybody's passing IQ. Um, I think we'll be okay. I'm really not concerned still at all. I still am gonna stand by my 6 or 7 game series, man. I mean, it's it was ignorant to think it'd be a sweep.
Yeah.
I don't even think. What did you say? 6 games or 7?
I said Heat in 7.
Said Heat in 7.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I said Nuggets in 7.
That was my bias towards Jimmy prediction. My unbiased prediction was Nuggets in 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But either way,
I
I see it going very long.
we'll see. I mean, I don't think Florida's going to get a championship this year in any sport.
I don't know, bro.
Panthers got destroyed last night.
Yeah, the Heat after winning game 2 have now become the first
Solid.
8 seed to win a finals game ever. So that's cool.
Yeah. Postseason, Nikola Jokic has more assists, more points, not like total, but in a game. More assists, more points, more something than
Rebounds,
LeBron. Yeah,
rebounds maybe.
I think rebounds
Then LeBron. What do you mean? Like in a single postseason?
in a single postseason game. Yep.
Nice. Yeah. So I mean, this has been a great series. Game 3 tomorrow night, probably tonight by the time this is uploaded, and then game 4 one Saturday.
I think so.
We'll try to get y'all another pod here after game 4 before game 5 rolls around. My prediction for that is the series will be tied 2-2. What do you think?
Yes, I do too. Um, I think the Nuggets need to win game 3.
Well, anything is possible. Anything is possible. Maybe Udonis Haslam will be out there, and
Put
maybe
DeAndre Jordan and Udonis Haslam out there. Let them go.
let him go. All right, bro. Anything else that you want to add before we get out of here?
Go Nuggets.
Dismiss this, go Nuggets. Here, I'll say one thing. Did you see Drew Holiday's quote about Jimmy?
No.
He was saying that there was literally nothing that he, our Giannis, our Chris Middleton, our Brooke Lopez could do. Jimmy in that series was the best player that he has ever seen in the world. So if Jimmy can bring any of that tenacity for the finals, I think it's a different
Then
series.
it'll go to 7 games.
Then Jimmy Jordan will bring one more ring to the family.
It's not happening, buddy. But keep pushing.
I believe in you, Jimmy. All right, appreciate y'all joining us, and until next time, peace.
Peace.